Welcome everyone to Innate Interviews. I'm your host, Dr. Haig John, and I have my good friend here, Dr. Wade Port, and I'm excited to have him back on the show again. We haven't done this one for about 4 years together. I'm excited. Welcome, Dr. Wade Port.
What's up,
How's it
brother
going, my
man?
friend?
Awesome. Glad to be here with you, Haig.
Well, thank you for joining us. You know, you're doing a lot of things out in the world and saving a lot of lives, turning on a lot of power. Tell me a little bit about the world of Wade Port right now and Mastery Love Service.
Well, it's a good day here in hot Atlanta, Georgia. Um, had a great round of golf today.
Very
I'm gonna
nice.
uh, I'm gonna do this jam with you, and then we're gonna go to the Tabernacle and adjust some musicians.
Sweet. Who's playing tonight?
String Cheese Incident.
Wow. All right.
Yeah,
Nice.
little 3 night run. So you know that music's a passion of mine. We've always blended it with chiropractic. Golf's a passion of mine. I always blended it with chiropractic. And that's what we do, right? Chiropractic way of life.
That is the chiropractic way of life. Everything blends in with chiropractic. And what tell us a little bit about your story, Wade. What brought you to chiropractic and what brought you into this level of service now that you are in a leadership role in chiropractic itself.
Sure. I mean, short, I'm a roughly spoiled kid from Metro Atlanta, from the burbs, and had an interesting upbringing. Overall in the grand scheme, pretty easy, right? Pretty mellow. I think, I saw some stuff that were, we grew up in the 80s,
Yeah.
and so it way different of a time then, and so we grew up with some very adult stuff in childhood, and that shaped. I'm going to say us, hey, because we're roughly the same age,
Sure.
um, and I'm a high school dropout, right? So I've always had this contrarian, almost trouble with authority type of thing. Definitely rebellious. I'm the second child, right? And I think a lot of these cliches get to be pretty accurate. There's all the memes and stuff about first child, second child, third child. And why are they like 80, 90% accurate? Because there's patterns that are very predictable. And, I see, and because I am in that role of a coach, mentor type of thing, that it's my job to draw out of the student or the doctor their spidey powers, their superpowers. And the longer I do it, I can really clearly see, no matter who it is, and I can certainly see it for myself, every single thing that transpired in our lives was leading us and informing us and giving us the tools and the wisdom and the knowledge, if we should choose it, to really have the most wildly authentic, genuine expression of our own love and skill and gift that could make the biggest impact in the world. So, mine's no different. And that's from dropping out of high school and getting in a VW bus with no money and traveling around the land, on the magical mystery tour with the caravan of gypsies. That taught me a lot about innate. That taught me about trust in life, with that no expectation, and that's a real trust exercise, to set out thousands of miles with virtually no money in your pocket, but somehow it works out. So from that to, getting the crud beat out of me by my dad, a lot of times by my brother, who I love dearly, from watching some really tough stuff in my household, and going through the emotional turmoil of their divorce and all that just wrecked me, man, and
Sure.
really shaped me in a lot of ways. And I can just see that maybe by virtue, and Haig, you and I, had so much of our, massive growth curve done together, you and I, hand in hand. Um, I think it is the willingness to look at it, acknowledge it, and process it and integrate it. And what's the biggest gift to help do that is extraordinary chiropractic care, is helping that unfolding of the gems and the jewels and the pearls of wisdom that were stored in our neurospinal system, and in the matrix of the mind,
Yeah.
to integrate it so that it could be a superpower versus a lifelong victimized, crutch and open scathing wound.
You touched on so many things, and ending with the scathing wound is where a lot of people, that's where that stuckness in life and never allowing the wound to truly heal, but still acknowledging that it existed. And that's one of the things that I think, teaching your students, but really even teaching ourselves daily, is that all those wounds, all those trials, all those tribulations, all those heartaches, all the joy, all the happiness, every up and down has formed us to this very moment. And that crucible of life, of coagulating all that beautiful stuff into the golden self, right?
Mm.
That golden self, like the fleece behind you, like that golden fleece of the lion in the Bible, and of making us into who we are. And we see it a lot with younger and younger students and people coming into graduate school and chiropractic school. Some have finished or at least done half of their college while they're in high school and then go straight to graduate school, sometimes haven't had all the life experience in that way. And some of it comes crashing in quickly with them. And God bless them, it's just a different type of a journey. You have any input or something to maybe lighten the load or give light to the end of the tunnel?
Sure. Well, several things that come up when you talk like that is that if I ask an audience, hey, raise your hand if you believe everything happens for a reason, most people will raise their hand, especially in the kind of the worlds that we live in. And you remember we used to cruise around in my 1974 Cabriolet Super Beetle Carmen edition, my
I have a
pumpernickel.
73 Super Beetle
I love
convertible,
it,
a
baby.
Cabrio.
That's it. And so you remember our pumpernickel orange when we used to
I
cruise
love
around
it.
in chiropractic school. Well, that got stolen, if you remember.
I do.
And, when I subscribed to everything happens for a reason, that was the defining or pivotal moment where I realized, oh, I'm the meaning making machine. I'm giving it the meaning, I'm assigning it. And how dare I be so arrogant as to think that I know the capital T truth? So it was the distinction to know, okay, if I'm going to assign it the reason, if I subscribe to the belief that everything happens for a reason, I am observing myself and everybody else assign horrific reasons for things, self condemning, self deprecating, these self punishing reasons for the things, especially if it doesn't go our way. And that was a pivotal moment to say, I got it. I'm going to shift that. I'm going to clean that up. The conscious languaging, setting ourselves free through that. Everything happens for a purpose. And I may or may not be tapped into what that is, but I do still believe that everything happens for a purpose. I just know that I'm a meaning making machine. And now I have the conscious choice. I'm going to assign it an empowering meaning, knowing that it's not necessarily the capital T truth, right? But from divine. But I have the choice on how I assign it. So let's stop beating myself up. Other thing, Nevaeh, right? We'll give Nevaeh a shout out here. She might be 14 by now, but she's been around us at DE for since she was teeny weeny, since she was tiny, right? And I talked to her at a conference some point last year, and she knows she wants to go to Sherman College. She knows she's a chiropractor, and it was not until I was 17, but she's known since she was probably 10 or 11, as far as like truly. And I just said, you know, Nevaeh, I'm Uncle Wade a little bit, right? And I said, you're going to get there. You've got stuff to do, but I said, go be a kid. You know, you're going to have this kid time once. And you know you're going to do that when you're in your young adulthood, but and she looks at me, she's like, "But I don't want to do anything else. This is what I want to do." And so that might be sage wisdom from, big Wade to little Wade, but for her, because when you say that, like you and I both got a good amount of life experience before we started chiropractic, like a good
Very
amount,
true.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Of wild adventure type of
Oh yeah.
stuff. And I'm like, thank goodness, because that cultivated me, but that was our path. And for
Yeah.
someone like, Nevaeh, heck, she might be graduating chiropractic school at 21 years old, 22 years old. I
It's
don't know,
possible.
right? What is that path for her? Third part that came up with your speaking, I used to, I'm not much for PowerPoint presentations and stuff like that. I want to, your assistant sent me a list of questions to look through, and I said, nope, that's not how I do it. I do not want to prepare anything for this talk with Haig. I want us to just riff. And I used to, and we've all heard it, and I guess I bought it at the time, right? You're teaching a class and it's let me tell you all the mistakes that I made so that you don't have to make them. I finally realized that's bullshit.
Total bullshit.
There's no such thing.
Yeah.
So now my frame for it today is I will, uh, it's some of them. I will tell you how well constructed many of the trappings are so that when you do fall in them, you'll be able to look around and be like, Wade told me about this. Haig told me about this. And what we might be able to workshop together are some real, like really badass ladders cultivated within yourself that when you do, I can't keep you from making mistakes. Like they're yours. That's your birthright to make those mistakes. Right. So who am I to come along and say, let me teach you this so you don't have to make mistakes? That's, I finally figured out as a fallacy.
Well, as a father as well, where we want to protect our children from everything and make no mistakes and all those things, because we made so many bonehead maneuvers.
Hmm.
Thank God. Hopefully, we learn at least one portion of the lesson. But if you don't skin your knee, you're never going to learn how to run or ride a skateboard or do the things that we want to protect everyone. And I was thinking when you were saying that, I think of my little girl. My daughter's 10. I think your daughter Eva Rose, is she 11 or 12 now?
She's 12 now.
12 years old.
Little
And
Bianca.
little Bianca is, she wants to emulate her mom. They want to be grown up, but they still want to be children. But telling them you still be kids, does it stick into their head? I want you to remain a child, enjoy childhood and all those things like you're talking about. In reality, they're going to have their own path. It's seeing us and looking at us and the people around them, hopefully having good idols, not idols, but people to look up towards and follow our paths, because we are the leaders. And for our own family, whomever else decides to follow or look and follow a path, that's up to them. But fatherhood has taught me a lot of those lessons, and I'm continuing learning them, over and over again every minute. Where you had, you went off and followed the dead. I went off and I went to Europe. And my father, when I was 18 years old, he said, "You have a passport. What in the world are you doing here?" And I thought, "You're right. I'm out of here." And traveled around the world. And now I don't want to go any of those places unless I bring my family now. I have no desire to travel. So I'm going to Cuba in a couple of days, actually. I'm
Amazing.
excited. It's going to be a lot of fun, but I wouldn't go unless my whole family was going. I always wanted to go to Cuba. It's actually the only place I still truly want to go to. I can't go unless my family comes. So now the whole crew is going. So this is going to be really exciting for them. So Wade, where do you see your path now? I mean, where you MLS is thriving. Maybe tell us a little bit about that. We've just celebrated the amazing life of a dear mentor, a guide, a sage, a cool dude, Arnaud Bernier, and now he's led a path. He's beaten the bushes, hacked away at the brush, and not necessarily making it any easier in any way, but he's forged a path, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe share a little bit about what's brought you here into that in that aspect with MLS, and how you're serving now, and maybe a little bit about Arno.
Whew.
It's a lot in that
Well,
question.
I just got back from Davenport. I just got back from Palmer College from this last weekend, and Haig. I mean, the just the juice that comes out of serving, and first and foremost, I think in my practice, right? That's what we went for, to serve the public and serve the community. And of course, now it's such a time. Everybody's a coach. Everybody's you know got a thing going,
It's
and so
true.
it's a little interesting in that realm, because I'm right there with them. Um, but man, the cup, how full and runneth over it gets from basically paying it forward. That's all I'm doing,
There you go.
is paying it forward. And we dove in together, with heavily with Arno, and then he got to be the hub of the wheel to introduce us to Sue. He introduced us to Lou, who introduced us to Pasquale, right? And that became such a pivotal experience for us while we were in school and beyond. And so just that whole world, we entered Arno's orbit, and he was such an instigator, and this, like, uh, dynamo is the word that keeps coming up. But he was the hub of the wheel, and that he made sure that we were getting exposed to all these other brilliant people as he kept lifting them up and lifting them up and leading from behind, and pushing not only them, but eventually you and me and others into that leadership role. And some of us stayed with it, and some of us didn't in our own way. But for me, I just stayed, at the feet of the master. And for over 20 years, if there was an opportunity and I was invited, and or I just needed to invite myself to just go, and if I could do anything, if I could carry his jock strap, if I could hold water next to him, just in thinking that he may be thirsty at some point, like, I would do that. And I gained an incredible amount. And I think we could just go back to where we started with my childhood and my upbringing. His style of mentorship and guidance was so what I needed, that structure, that discipline. Yes, he was a spiritual father. And I needed that. It's what I didn't have. And so, I took it, man. I took it and ran with it. And in the way that it transformed my life, it transformed my practice. And then eventually he started asking me to teach. And from there I just kept doing it, and kept saying yes. And so he, I guess, kept entrusting me with more and more. And I had that blessing of just being so close, by his side, and constantly receiving his guidance, mentorship, and coaching. So his words echo, very clear today. And I'm just, it's not really it's not much of a business plan, Haig, as it is just continuing to say yes to the calling. And we have people from all around the world. I was communicating with somebody in Australia yesterday who keep wanting MLS and that training. And the it's certainly not the biggest program in the world. Never was trying to be. Um, but the biggest compliment is that people who trained with Arno 10, 20 years ago come today, and they across the board say, wow, this is such a true representation and such a impeccable, way you're bringing this about, that Arno would do. And so that's the best for me. I'm like, okay, I love it. I'll still do it. Let's keep
That's a
going.
great compliment. Well, I promoted you and MLS this weekend at Sherman. And, I always put all effort towards MLS, and it's my foundation of service. And, where we went through, Masterpiece Training Camp together, an advanced camp I went to, and where, he formed chiropractors in service and what it really was. And I remember so distinctly, and I need to find or create a book of holding up the book of serve,
Mm.
and that was the poignant theme of just at New Beginnings, where we one of the celebrations of life for Arno Bernier, and where he's touched so many people, and not just the chiropractors, but all the people, as Dee Dee Palmer would say, the denizens of the earth that received the care through the chiropractor. It's untold in measurement. It's not able to be measured of what effect that has had on human existence. Let's look at it in that sense, because we're touching people's lives, and each person we touch, each time, that resonates out through the universe. So thank you for your serving, and it's you're a blessing, and I appreciate you very much, my friend. So how you said he also has touched you in practice. So how would you bring MLS, and what does that relate to in practice for you?
It's the Cafe of Life model.
Yeah.
And so he gave us a real blueprint. He gave us the roadmap for what that, vitalistic, I got my Vitalist lid here. My buddy Brett gave me a while back.
That's a good
And
one.
I would say for 20 years in practice, roughly, every year, friends, colleagues, they come and they peek in the door, they peek inside, and very commonly they're like, "Oh my God, what are you doing? Show me how to do this." And one of those reasons, it's been all cash. It's always been all cash. And so that's one of the big things. There's no treatment rooms, there's no clinics, there's no manipulations, there's no he gave us the whole new lexicon, and it's second nature to us. But I think, I'll speak for both of us, maybe unfairly, but I think it's easily taken for granted how instilled that was in us, that if you want to set the public free from a paradigm and lexicon that has enslaved them and impoverished them in their health, life, well-being, and abundance of any kind, then you cannot use the same language. And it's just so this integrity piece was always forefront, and he was never shy about sharing it. And his strong opinions on it, and he did it with love, with loving authority. And so, whether it's just cash practice, whether it is focused on life and vitality and well being, whether it's I give people a questionnaire versus a form, whether I call it a living room or reception room or our first visit and interview, right? Versus the waiting room and the treat, it
Yeah.
just goes down the line. So therefore, when you peek behind the curtain and you come inside, we're having a life party, and it's so joyful. And I see you constantly. We're just tracking together because you just exude chiropractic, you exude love, and you exude just the joy and passion and fire, however many years later, decades later, that we've been doing this. And I mean, if that's not the biggest telltale sign of the Cafe of Life way, of the MLS way, I don't know what else is. Now, I am making some shifts in some like scalability type of things, and now going into realms that weren't necessarily his forte in his day and age. And this is, get understanding metrics and all the stuff. So uh now rounding out some more. I do a lot of stuff in my practice that he wouldn't necessarily do in his, and but it's all congruent with the principle.
Well, that's the important part. It's not that you're mimicking somebody else's practice. You know, just a lot of what you're saying too, that goes back to D.D. Palmer. You know, treatment is for the sickness. We care for the person. And, you know, for DD, the treatment was a curse word if you used it in chiropractic. And we've lost our way in many ways in the profession of using those terms, intermingling those terms like manipulation.
Mm.
Who in the heck would want to be manipulated?
Mm.
You know, nobody. Why do we use that term? There's no actual reason for us to be using it, and it doesn't make sense. It's just somebody's trying to be different, or really just, undermine the whole principle of chiropractic itself. So, you know, that's very important. We even just to stick with our terms is very, very important. Thanks for sharing that.
Well, at Palmer this last weekend, I definitely, at one point, whether it was Friday Night Philosophy or Saturday, I one of my biggest intents is by the end of this weekend, you will absolutely have a knowingness, an experience of the difference between manipulation and chiropractic adjustment.
Yeah.
Because I don't want it to just be words. You have to have a working, living knowledge and experiential nature of the dynamics of it. And so some of it is, well, they just don't know the difference. And
Yeah.
then it's going to inevitably lead us to the, political hijacking of the chiropractic profession. And so it's also going to lend to our opening conversation on why do some people, because they're operating out of their wounds of needing to be approved of and needing to be accepted and needing to be respected, instead of acting out of a core value of integrity, of principle, et cetera, et cetera. That's what would have people be afraid to uh, espouse the principle and have it be such a expression of who they are in practice, despite what the status quo, what society's programming says who they should be. Well, if I need the public to like me or accept me, I'm screwed. I'm going to be a treatment doctor espousing back and neck pain relief for the rest of my life. If I need the public to accept me and like me, because that's what the uh, the criminal hijacking of chiropractic has trained the public, and then subsequently, because of the institutional hijacking, has trained every chiropractor that that's what we are. And it's such
Yeah.
a head trip that it takes a lifelong dedication to make it through that conditioning. You will
Yeah.
not get through it gently or lightly. It will take everything you got to stay true to the principle.
It takes work, it takes effort, it takes highs and lows. You're exactly right, because you know it's people that you get shot at by people that want you to think their way, because you know maybe they're thinking in the same way you're saying right now. And you know it's the social aspect of it. Am I not getting the likes, or am I not getting the pats on the back or the hearts, that release the endorphins, of my own credibility? But ultimately, being a chiropractor, we have to gain that thick skin early in our careers, because we're not going to be accepted by everyone. Who cares? You know, I made a meme not too long ago. I'm not a pizza. Not everybody's going to love me because I'm not a pizza, or whatever that's that way that is. But it doesn't matter what people are thinking about you. It's about how many lives you touch. And the more congruent you are within and knowing who we are, that is where we truly serve from. And it's a constant growth. As we go through time, we learn more about ourselves, thank God, because at 55 years old right now, I'm just starting to get to know myself even better, and it's a pretty exciting journey.
100%. May the journey be our joy, right?
Yeah.
Uh, it, it it always occurs to me, especially at seminar, and I'm aware that MLS probably already has, but I guess I'm helping to uphold the reputation that uh, we're going to go deep. we're going to go deep into who we are. And well, that's the MLS brand. And so if you're looking just for biomechanics, then we're definitely not the program for you, because the catalyzing statement from Arno from 40 years ago, who you are as a human being precedes who you are as a chiropractor, rings just as true today. And I mean, it should be something excited to lean into, that we have so many ways to measure now the influence that your presence of being has on another being, neurologically, emotionally, physically, spiritually, the whole thing. So it's been framed as the hard road to face your fears, to look at limiting beliefs, to accept your greatness, to lean into the path of self mastery, has been falsely promoted as the hard road. And it's very clear to me now that is the easy road.
Sure. That's very
Because once we
insightful.
get a glimpse into any bit of our true nature and true essence, and we turn our back on it, oh, that's a hard road that I don't wish upon anybody. And so that's that blessing and burden of saying yes to the process. And ready is an illusion. We'll never be ready in the way that that's touted. And you do have every right to serve another human being as you are still a hot mess. And we have that ritual, we have that methodology to, in the face of my hot messness, to ask for guidance, ask for support, ask for the wisdom to be provided through me. And may I be of service, and not about me today, about this special human being. And wow, on those days where am going to the office feeling like, oh my goodness, I am, and it's rare, but I am in the seas, and I don't know where the lighthouse is. I don't know where the rock is to grab. I don't know if I've got a raft anywhere nearby. I'm reeling. Well, I drop in, and usually those mornings, as you probably know, look out, people, because the power's going to come through. And that's in my vulnerability. I see that the also the conditioning, it's gosh, it's so old now. This vulnerability being some false pretense of weakness, this this fear of intimacy. It's gotta end, man. It's just such a covering and such a handcuff to our potentiality and our power of setting ourselves free and then others. I can't imagine practice or life without just this thirst to know the depths of my fellow brothers and sister, and then having this gift of the chiropractic adjustment to just be the icing on the cake of fast tracking growth and evolution. Here,
Yeah.
here.
Here, here. Well, Wade, it's great hanging out with you. Let's do this again very, very soon.
Yes, sir.
I know your time is running, and I don't want to take your time up too selfishly because I could spend all day with you, and I appreciate you very much. We had a couple of technical errors. I'm using a backup camera again. Our lighting's not perfect, but what's perfect, right? Life is perfect. We just make it. We take every step with it, and I appreciate you because I've been along the journey with you for since the beginning, my brother. Wade, thank you again. Any last closing words?
I just want to send a just deep, heartfelt love to Roberta, Bianca, Malcolm, your sweet dear mother. And
Thank you.
yeah, just so much love and respect for you, Haig, and really you are brother in arms and inspiration to a lot of folks. Just keep shining your light. I need to see it in those days if I'm a little dark. So I appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you too. And the same back to Eva Rose and Lisa. God bless you and your family. And we'll hang out again soon, brother. All right.
All right, my man.